Joining us now is Richard Berthelsen, our CTV News Royal Commentator. Richard, thanks as always for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Your reaction to the lawmakers' outburst, have we seen this before?
Well, I mean, I think over the course of a long time, and the king has been in public life a long time, he has experienced different kinds of protests, different kinds of even security incidents. I mean, this was an extraordinary moment in the Australian Parliament by a parliamentarian to interrupt that ceremony where the king, as you said, had just made a fairly direct statement about the importance of the Aboriginal population in Australia and his own understanding of it, his own understanding of various issues, which was enhanced by that. I think one also has to understand the political situation in Australia. There was a referendum on Indigenous rights, which just failed about a year ago in Australia. So tempers and emotions are still continuing to run high. I think the king would understand that. Such as in Canada here, we would see, various members of the Indigenous community who might want to directly confront the Crown. In Canada, we've seen that on a more quiet basis in meetings. Even if those meetings were public, we've seen that. But this was an extraordinary moment. I think there are people in Australia who would think maybe this wasn't the best way to raise those issues at that time. But obviously, we live in democracy, and the king understands that.
I was going to ask how this will play out within Australia and outside of it.
Well, obviously, it's a fairly big story when a ceremony of this type is interrupted, and it's fairly unusual for a royal visit for it to be interrupted. As I say, it's not unusual for the king or his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, to have been confronted directly by Indigenous people, either here in Canada or elsewhere, with some of the issues that have arisen. But I think to do so in such a public and kind of dramatic way is something else. I mean, I think in Australia there'll be various different views about it, as I say, because of the political situation. I think there's generally a high degree of sympathy for the king at the moment that he's made this 30,000-mile trip to Australia, in a much depleted situation given his cancer situation. And I think mostly the trip has gone very successfully. I think the king won't make any further comment about it, but I think he will take it as, a sense of how the anger in the Indigenous community within Australia, particularly because of the loss of that referendum last year.
And within Australia, there's been a lot of debate about wanting to be a republic and ending ties with the royal family.
There has, and of course, Australia had a famous referendum in the late 1990s that was not successful. The government has abandoned any idea of undertaking a referendum there as a result of this loss last year. Referendum on constitutional matters, like in Canada, are very, very difficult to get through. So I think that, there's been a little bit of reappraisal of the situation. There's a sense of the challenges in what you would replace the monarchy with and how you would replace that. And I think the king is, a more sympathetic figure than he was as Prince of Wales because of the way he's handled himself as king and his own personal circumstances, his own health. So Australians are getting to know the king a little bit better on this very short trip where he has, for him, a very truncated schedule. But there will be debate about this. And there have been individuals at various events on this world tour who have been holding placards about becoming a republic. And again, that's not dissimilar to the United Kingdom, where that is going on as well. And there will be this kind of democratic expression. And that's, I think, to be expected when you live in a society with free speech.
Okay, wonderful. Richard, thank you as always.
Thank you.